she gave me this plow, like you hold the plow, and then there's
the manual ones.
Yes, and then there's a buoy in front, two that are pulling. So all my cousins had like straight lines, so mine was going like this, so because I wasn't holding it firmly.
My name is Roy Kapesa, and I'm here at the beautiful Cargo 88 Hotel in Lusaka, located at East Park Mall, and I've got the pleasure today of sitting down with Mr. Collins Hamusonde, the CEO of ZSIC Life Insurance, for a fascinating conversation about life, business, and everything in between. We hope you enjoy this conversation. Come with me. Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, how are you?
Good, thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you and a pleasure to talk to you for our TableTalk section at Nkwazi.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
I hope we'll have a good conversation. So, let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Tell me about your upbringing.
My upbringing.
Your upbringing, your life growing up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone talks about upbringing being centered around my mother and my parents, and sounds like a cliche, but that's exactly where I start from as well. My parents had a very fundamental aspect of who I am today. So a lot of what I learned, what I am now, I learned from them. So I'm a firstborn in a family of four. I've got a brother and two sisters, and from an early age, I learned to take charge, because then you have to look after your siblings and take care of them, and
What was life like growing up in the village?
Well,
and how long did you spend there? And
very little time. So born, moved away all over the place, and then started my grade 1 back there again in the village, and then moved back into town. But the period I spent like 3 months or so, the first term of my grade 1, very interesting. I would walk to school because of having had done my nursery a little bit in Ndola. I found myself to be among the brightest in the class. So the teacher there, a bit of exposure, So I remember my class teacher then she put little posters of our names from the ceiling board, and the first task in the morning was identify your name, and the entire class would fail except me, for quite a number of days. She wanted everyone to recognize how your name is spelled, so I would always walk in and say, Collins, okay, that's my name. So that was the early days. The guys couldn't count, I remember that. From 1 to 100, I was the only one who could go beyond 30. I felt proud of myself. But now when I think about it actually shows you how unfair the world can be sometimes. So just because I had a bit of nursery experience, I learned a few things. I'm put in an environment where the kids are predominantly from a rural setting, and then the difference shows. So
that's such a good point. Because it shows that you can get a head start in life, but that doesn't necessarily make you special simply because you have that. And if another kid had the same experience, they could be exactly where you are. So
you should actually be grateful for some of the things that give you an advantage over the others, because if they had them, they would be exactly where you are. So
So you grew up in a house of academics.
Yes. We had books. I think we had a whole section of huge shelf with books, engineering and literature, and I could sometimes disappear reading mostly literature. As early as maybe when I was in grade 4, I found myself reading because the books were available.
Do you still read now?
Not as much. I think I read
the demands of life.
The demands of life. Yes. I do, however, spend at least 15 to 30 minutes every day. I read. So I have a book that I read. So the first thing I do when I get to the office is I take that book, I read.
Okay, so how did growing up in that academic environment shape your career and your choice of study when now it was time to progress to tertiary?
Yeah, you could always get a sense that my dad would have preferred, obviously he wants you to go into the sciences, My mom was very clear. She wanted to see me on TV. You know, in her head, you should be on TV reading the news.
She's getting her dream now because there's a video here.
Yeah, so true. But ideally, they both didn't get what they really wanted. But what I learned was the need to be clear around what your dream is. And I think they allowed me to choose my path despite what they wanted. I literally chose what I'm doing now. I told them I want to do business administration. It wasn't in any of their minds at the time, and I pursued it. They supported me all the way up to the time that I could then support myself. But they created that environment where you make a decision and go for it.
So we're having a very fascinating interview with Mr. Collins Hamusonde, the CEO of ZSIC. And there's a number of lessons that I'm picking up from this interview. The first one is insurance is very hard to sell. And what I've learned is that insurance is actually never bought. Insurance is always sold, let alone selling funeral insurance in a market like Zambia, where there's so many myths surrounding death and funerals and things like that. What has been your journey in insurance like? Because I think from the outside looking in, just even from my perspective, insurance seems like a very tough business. Because to convince a Zambian that they need insurance, especially life insurance,
It's tough.
motor we are kind of spared because
No choice.
but these others,
It's funny. I always tell this story that in my undergrad days, one lecturer came and said the hardest thing to sell in life is a service, and the hardest thing to sell in a service is insurance. And the hardest thing to sell in insurance is a life policy. And the most difficult thing to sell in life policies is a funeral policy. So during the time we're going through that class, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be an insurer, you know. But then turns out my first job, the first entity that gave me an opportunity to work for them was an insurance company. So I struggled a bit at first. Because the reality is it's there. You know, you walk in and people don't give you the time, they don't give you the respect. The work is hard. Sometimes the money is little if you're not churning in as many policies as you're supposed to. But I stuck it out, and before long, I actually started falling in love with the industry. You know, by the time I was in my third, fourth year, I was like, this is it. I've spent 4 or 5 years in this space. I must now begin to develop myself further into it. So I had to make that decision. It didn't just happen by accident, but I literally sat down and said, okay, initially I wanted to be a banker. And at that point I was like, okay, there's no more banking now. This is it. Let me dig my heels into this and then see where it will take me.
So another key point that I've picked up is the importance of timing. Collins got the role to act as CEO of ZSIC Life, but he had the self-awareness to realize that the shoes were just too big. And when he was not confirmed for that role, he decided to go and undertake his MBA at Rhodes University in South Africa, with the goal of sharpening his skills and coming back stronger, a move that positioned him to take on the executive role at ZSIC Life. So you talked about developing yourself. When now you learned after 4 years that, okay, this is it. Was that then the impetus to go and do your MBA?
No, it took a bit of a while. So when I made the decision to stick it out in insurance, I first said, okay, let me learn, really learn how this job is done from people who were around me, from the supervisors that I had at the time, and I acquired their skills. I learned the processes, I learned the art. I moved from selling to capturing new business, to claims and policy services, to running an entire operation as operations manager, and ultimately to CEO. Then that gives you a whole range of what's supposed to be done. Yes. So I wanted to learn that art. When I decided to do my MBA, it was at the time that I got my first opportunity to act as managing director for ZSIC Life. And the truth is, I got that opportunity, and within 3 months of me acting, I realized I wasn't ready. And it takes a lot for you to admit that, okay, this is too early for me. You know,
that's interesting. Let's just tell me about that. How did you realize that you are not ready for that? Because my thinking is that, okay, you get put as acting CEO. The average person would just jump in and fake it till you make it, start leading people. But I think it takes a lot of clear-headedness for you to say, these shoes are too big.
Yeah.
So how did you realize that? Like, what was your thought process there?
Because the shoes were too big, you know. So you sit in a meeting, you're supposed to explain what's going on, and you find that your explanation is a little bit short. And you
have more questions
people have more questions than answers. They're looking at you like, what is this guy talking about, you know? And the more that happened, I realized then that it's not because of my inability to deliver, but I didn't have the exposure. So I needed time. I needed to grow myself in that space for me to comfortably sit and reduce what I'll talk about in 30 minutes down to about a minute and a half, and leave someone still understanding the full impact of my speech. So that art, I said, look, I need to understand this. I ultimately didn't get the role. I wasn't surprised, but I wasn't disappointed, because then I knew that this means I have to work hard.
Yeah. What are the top 3 things that you've identified that you want to work on? Because I'm sure, you know, when you enter a business, there's so much you could work on. Even CEOs think of everything, even the branding and the logo and the colors, but we know that those are not necessarily So what have you identified as the top 3 things that, as Collins, these are the
things to do?
Yeah.
I was very clear in terms of what my key focus is.
Yeah.
So the first is operational efficiency. We have to make sure that the system works. You have to make sure that the customer gets the full benefit of what we're doing in back office. So focus on the customer, very critical, but that comes out of ensuring that your back end systems are working efficiently. You know, you're processing claims on time, you are listening to customer complaints, you are responding to them, you are capturing a new business on time, you are lodging your new business, you are reconciling your premiums versus your billing. So that back office work, it must be top notch. That was the first. Then sales and revenue. Obviously, you have to make the shareholder happy. Meet your targets and push yourselves to do even more. You know, the human mind always tends to flow through the path of least resistance. So if left alone, you just do the things that make sense to you. So challenge yourself to do a little bit more. Then the third one was, we need to start appreciating the role of technology, digital developments that are happening. How do we make life easy? So those were my key 3 priorities. I was like, whatever else is going on, I'm giving you what my focus is. We have to make sure that the operations are working well. We have to make sure that we get money for our shareholder and for the business. And we have to accept and adapt to what's happening in the world from a digital perspective. Yeah.
Tell me a bit about your own leadership journey. How do you approach leadership? What if I walked into ZSIC and I asked, let's say, your direct reports and the direct reports of your direct reports to tell me about Collins as a leader, what would they say?
I'll tell you what I hope they say, but you
and then after this I'll verify.
Go and verify. But I hope they'll tell you that I'm very transformational. I'm not one size fits all.
Yeah.
I react to you the way you need to be reacted to. I manage you the way you need to be managed to. I do have my very clear principles that should not be broken, you know, and I'll make it clear to you. Don't miss a deadline. Don't be late for any of my meetings. Come prepared if you're going to walk into my office. Those things are, you know, there's no room for us to negotiate. Everything else I can fit into your personality, so that then we find a way of working together. So that's how I sort of like try to manage my teams. What they'll tell you is that I'm very accommodating. I listen. I get involved.
Yeah.
If I see you struggling with something, I'll get involved, help you learn it, and then I leave you to run with it on your own. I trust my people as well. I'm not the type of guy who always wants to have oversight in what is going on. If I see that you are running and you're doing things well, I step back.
Okay.
But you must meet that target that we're chasing, and you must cross that deadline together. There's a reason why it's called deadline. If you miss it, you're dead. So, so that's basically, I think, what they'll tell you. I have never had a former workmate or someone who I supervised who called me evil, and they're happy with me. I'm proud to say that. And I also like to teach. I think those who work
there's a
closely
coaching
with me,
style
there's a
as well.
coaching style. You know, people who work with me grow. As I grow, I'm also growing them. That's just a fundamental approach that I have. Yeah.
How well does that approach work, especially in a system where obviously there's this concept called the 80-20 principle? I'm sure you know it.
Yes.
So for ZSIC, I'm sure it would work like 80% of the business is generated by 20% of the people.
Yeah.
How then do you manage, if you're not micromanaging, how do you deal with the rest of the 80% that may not be pulling their weight? Or because insurance is a numbers game.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that?
So the first point is you always have your 80-20 factor in any organization. The only thing that you do is begin to work on how do you turn your 80 into your 20 as well. Okay, so it's one thing to recognize that there's a whole bunch of guys who are not delivering the way they're supposed to, but you need to spend time on how do you get them to deliver. You know, so one of the key lessons I learned early on, and I think I was at African Life then. This.
Can they go?
Yes, you can, please. There you are. This guy from South Africa came. He was an expert in, I can't remember what it was, and he said, when you're working with people, there are two fundamental things: you either change the people or change the people. So if you can change the mindset or change the people, yeah. So first thing you do is change the mindset, and if the mindset can't change to fit into what you are chasing, then bring someone else who does. But before you do that, give this person the opportunity to understand exactly what your goal is, so that they begin to change themselves into what you're supposed to do. So my goal is to make the 80 become part of the 20 as much as possible, because then the business wins.
That's a good one. I think I'll definitely take that. You either change the people or you change the people.
Yeah.
Let's talk about life outside of work.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer that our jobs
Yes.
are only a certain part of who we are and what we do. Who is Collins outside of work? I want to hear more about
Collins outside the office.
Yeah.
I'm a very basic guy. So
I like that. Very basic.
Very basic. I come to the office, I go back home. On a Thursday, I go for rehearsal. I sing, by the way. I'm part of a singing group at church.
That's interesting.
Yes, there's God's Envoys. They are a crazy bunch of friends. Been there for a while, I think since 2009. But that experience, then coupled with church on Saturday when I go, and a few activities on Sunday, they sort of like create room for you to distress. I think if I didn't have that structure around me, I would be completely messed up. And then obviously my family, you know, my wife, kids, they play a significant role. So I bounce off ideas with my wife when I need to. You know, I'm stressed, I go and vent, and then she listens. Sometimes I would be explaining insurance, technical stuff, and she's just nodding. And I can tell that she doesn't understand what I'm saying, but she's nodding.
Because she has to be supportive.
She has to be supportive. But just giving me the time to explain is something that I don't take for granted. So that's me outside the office. I'm not a party guy. I'm not very outgoing. I've always been thinking of playing golf, but I haven't started. So that's how simple my life is.
What are some of your other passions? For example, do you farm?
No, I don't.
Something you're inclined to?
No. It's a strange thing. I actually used to upset my grandmother each time I told her. I would tell her I'll never be a farmer.
Because as a southerner, I'd expect you to have a few.
Very, very weird. I told her I'm never going to be a farmer. So one time when I went to, I think it had been one of those times when I was in the village.
Yeah.
She gave me this plow, you know, like you hold the plow, and then there's
the manual one.
Yes, and then there's a buoy in front too that are pulling. So all my cousins had like straight lines, so mine was going like this, you know, so because I wasn't holding it firmly.
It's like he doesn't have it.
And then she came, she was a bit hard on me, and I told her, look, this is not going to be my life. I will make sure I pass at school so that I don't have to do this every day. So I'm not a farmer. Not likely to be. I don't think. I will probably settle on a farm, but I'm not going to be a farmer. I won't go into commercial farming, and it's not my passion. Okay. Very strange for a Tonga man to say that, but I'll probably get attacked for this, but it's not my passion.
From the Tonga bulls that are listening, they'll disown you. Yeah, and you talked about your wife and kids. You've been married for how long? And how many kids do you have?
17 years this year. I've got 2 kids, and would have adopted my niece, so 3.
When you think about, for example, the next 5 to 10 years of your personal life, what are some of the things that you are hoping to achieve going forward?
So from a ZSIC Life perspective, I would like us to be completely different in the next 5 years. I'm a firm believer in stewardship. Leave things better than you found them. So wherever I go, I want to walk out and leave the room clapping because I have done my part, and it's been an excellent part that I've contributed. So that's what I'm pushing for. So I'll drive that agenda as actively as I can. At a personal level, I'm at the stage where I need to start preparing for retirement. So everything I do now for me is about what happens after I stop work. So I've already sort of like adjusted my mindset to say, okay, look, it's just another 10, 15 years and you're out. There's some younger kid somewhere there who's going to come and they'll take over all your jobs. And so I must begin to prepare. So everything, that's where my head is. So within the next 5 years, I should be ready to say, okay, if I need to go, I'm gone.
What would you say are some of the keys to your success?
Okay.
That you want the young reader, the young listener who will watch this?
For me, it's your personal values. You need to be very careful about what you hold dear as the things that define you. And values are wide. There's a whole spectrum of values, but you need to pick the ones that resonate well with you. And as long as you pick a value, it's something positive because there are no negative values. So what everyone is looking out for in terms of the perfect employee or the perfect CEO is someone who they can trust, someone who they can rely on, someone who drives excellence, someone who is focused on delivering things right up to the end. So you need to find values that speak to these elements and begin to culture them in you. You can't just wake up one morning and you are a manager in your department. It comes out of the work that you're doing. It comes out of what is driving you, So it's very easy to wake up and say, I'm not getting paid enough and therefore I want to do my work up to X amount. But the more work you do, even if no one is clapping at the end of the day, there's always someone watching. I tell people that there's always someone watching. At some point, your work is going to be recognized and you begin to rise. So that's, for me, it's values, and stick to them and work hard and never get to a point where you lose focus on what your dream is. Understand what you want to achieve and work at it. It just doesn't happen. You can't just sit back at home and say, I want to be a CEO, and then you snap your fingers and you're sitting in a big office. No, it's work. And think of it in this way. Not everyone is a CEO. Every entity only has one guy who is a CEO. There's a reason why that happened. Otherwise, there would be like 10 other CEOs in any business. So for you to actually be that one, it means you have to outstand, you have to be different, you have to be unique. So always aim at being different from everyone else. If people are delivering 1, find a reason to deliver 3, not just 2. Then you're completely different, and then they'll say, okay, this is the guy. That's been my driving force.
Just curious to see, how do you see the impact of education and how that translates to work? Because I know, and I speak to a number of people, especially for us young guys, where people now say, you don't need a degree. And yes, I think these things are being pushed in the US. But if you look at the Zambian culture, do you think a degree helps? What's the correlation between education and career success?
It does. It helps a lot. Because what education does is that it helps you think. You might not see the value at the time that you're going through that pain. You're maybe 3rd, 4th year at UNZA, but I can assure you that when you graduate and you're seated in a room somewhere, that pain you're going through now is going to become extremely valuable. It's very different. And I think our economy right now is Zambia, and this is my personal belief. it's not yet structured in a way that if you don't go to school, you can find a way of making it in life, guaranteed. In other economies, yes, you can. You can go up to equivalent of grade 12 and still be a huge success. But I don't think we are yet at that level where you drop out proudly and then you come up with some nice invention and then you're Steve Jobs. We're not yet there. We'll get there. We have to work to get there. For now, what works is education.
So education is still the thing then?
Prime thing, So I like the fact that we've got free education, at least up to grade 12, but it shows the importance of you having to learn. And then we need to push ourselves now to go into the tertiary sector and understand, come out with a trade, a qualification, and begin to apply it. And like I said earlier, once you have it, it opens up a door for you to do other things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My good sir.
Thank you very much.
It's been so good talking to you.
Also.
Wish you the best in your journey with ZSIC.
Thank you. Thank you.
So another important tidbit that I've picked up from Collins is around people. And he says something that I think is very fascinating. He says you either change the people or you change the people. What he's driving at is in the first approach. You develop people. You help them change and to actualize and be the best of who they can be. Or the second one, which is really a last resort where you change the people. You remove them from their roles and you bring in people that can do those roles better. That is a masterclass on people that I've learned from Collins. Thank you as always for staying tuned to Mkwazi Table Talk and for reading our pieces. See you in the next one.